Attorney General. Among them, our next guest, columnist Jonathan Allen of Roll Call. Jonathan, thanks a lot for joining us tonight.
My pleasure.
So you wrote a column about Sessions before today's announcement, but recently. And I got to say, it's one of the most unfair things I think I've ever read.
Okay.
I mean,
well,
it's almost like a pure
award.
download from the DNC website. You say, among many other things, Sessions is a favorite of Stormfront, the white nationalist web community founded by former Klansman Don Black. Is there any evidence that he's had contact with Stormfront, endorsed Stormfront, or are you just smearing him on the basis of their endorsement of him?
Well, look, I'm not saying that he's like a member of Stormfront or anything.
What are you saying?
I'm saying that he is a favorite of people who hold bigoted views, and that's not. That,
so if someone
by the
you
way,
don't like says something nice about you, you're tainted by that?
Well, I think if you look at the history and the pattern of Jeff Sessions, he said things over the course of time that should make
you said
people,
something really specific. You said he was endorsed by Stormfront. But I'm sure he would disavow that immediately. So why is that fair to write that?
He hasn't disavowed it that I know of.
Oh, so you think he agrees with Stormfront? Is that what do you have evidence for that?
I don't know, but the point that I would make about Jeff Sessions and the larger point of the column is Americans should have a right to feel that they are going to be equally protected under the law. And Jeff Sessions, over the course of time, and I pointed out a lot of other things in that column, has said and done things that should make people some people feel uncomfortable with the idea that he's going to treat them fairly under the law.
I don't think, here's what people have a right to, is the expectation that if someone's going to throw out a charge, that it's substantiated. It's not just by implication. In this McCarthy way, you say, among other things that I'm quoting now, surely Sessions wouldn't try to resegregate the American armed forces in which he served. Really? Jonathan Allen, surely you wouldn't batter a child. What does that mean? Nobody
well, no, you're right, I wouldn't.
No, but nobody suggested he would resegregate the armed forces.
Well, Jeff Sessions has been opposed to the Voting Rights Act in the past.
Opposed? Is that the same as resegregating the American armed forces?
Well,
I mean, that's a really appalling thing to say about somebody.
Wait a second. It's not that far of a cry for some people.
But has that suggestion ever come up? That's specific. We're talking
about the Attorney General of the United States.
No, we're talking about your column.
We're talking about the Attorney General.
You suggested that was even a possibility. He would resegregate the U.S. armed forces, and I'm asking where.
I said he wouldn't.
Okay, well, you wouldn't beat your wife.
But however,
you're attacking him.
However,
but not directly.
However, there are the armed forces of the United States is one of the institutions that is most racially diverse, most ethnically diverse in our country, right?
Right.
Lots of people of all sorts of backgrounds in the United States Armed Services. First integrated by Harry Truman way back when. All of those people who are not white people would have to have faith, and the reason that came up is we're talking about a potential defense secretary appointment for him at some point. Should be able to have faith that their leader doesn't discriminate against them or is not prejudiced against them.
Because there's literally no possibility that he wants to do that he would suggest doing it, or that he would do it. But you're fear-mongering. But by the way, you know what else is a very diverse place? Is the state of Alabama, which he's represented for 20 years. Is 25% African-American. Can you name, in the 20 years he has served, 19 as senator, a single instance where he's mistreated someone on the basis of his race? Ever. One.
Well, senators don't typically walk around mistreating their citizens.
You're calling the guy a racist, so why don't you throw some examples out?
I'll give you an example of something that I think should worry people if they believe in the equal protection of the law.
Right.
When he talks about immigration, right? He's a big anti-immigration guy, wants to crack down on immigration. When President Obama said he was going to put 2,000 minors, undocumented minors in Alabama,
you mean here illegally?
Children. Yes, here illegally, children.
Okay.
In the state of Alabama, Jeff Sessions' response was, we're going to have to treat them and feed them and let them go.
Okay.
So
I'm missing your point. Was the state not on the hook for feeding and clothing those kids?
He was complaining about the idea that the state of Alabama was going to have to feed and clothe children.
Okay, but do you think so that makes him
that's
racist?
such an awful?
I mean, that's your example of his racism? Are you being serious?
First of all, I don't think I called him racist.
You called him racist like 9 times in the column. I mean, it's
no, but if we're going to use the word,
and I'm asking you, what's the example of his racism? And you don't have one.
Wait, now wait a second. Well, if you want to go back, no, what you asked me was what's recent.
Yeah,
so in 1986,
he's been a U.S.
so in
senator.
1986,
he's been overwhelmingly re-elected for 20 years, and I'm asking of one instance where he's been racist. You don't have one.
Are you saying
you downloaded some talking points from the DNC?
Well, first of all,
I
wrote that column before Sessions was nominated.
I mean, this is just a totally hack job here.
You asked me for instances of him doing racist things.
Yeah.
Oh, well, now wait a second. You asked me for recent examples, and your argument is that you could serve in the Senate for 20 years and just because you served in the Senate for 20 years, you were elected to the Senate, you're not racist?
My argument
that is at odds with American history,
My
sir.
argument is that before you call someone racist and suggest
Which
that
I
he has
didn't.
ties to, you do repeatedly, and suggest that he has ties to Stormfront and might resegregate the armed forces, you might have some facts.
I have some facts.
You don't.
In
You also
1986, he called the NAACP un-American.
Really? Because
Well, I'm sorry, that was during his hearing. He had done it previously.
I think the NAACP is a totally discredited group. Does that make me a racist? I mean, let's get back to reality a little bit. You also say, you're not alone in saying this, he is, quote, beyond the ideological fringe.
It's true.
Really? Because I actually looked up some of his views, which I'm very familiar with.
Yeah.
What percentage of Americans do you think believe we need to reduce the amount of immigration into this country?
I think a lot of Americans.
Oh, a majority. Did you know that?
I think a lot of Americans believe that.
So
You realize that immigration from Mexico right now is actually going the other way?
I realize that has nothing to do with the question I asked
okay.
you. You said he is on the ideological fringe, and my point is the fringe is far outside the mainstream. And by definition, that view is at the very center of the country. It's the opposite of the fringe.
That's one view that he holds that's in the mainstream.
So why don't you, since we're on TV Live, give me an example of an opinion he has that is on the ideological fringe?
He wants to ban same-sex marriage. That's on the ideological fringe.
Is that true?
Well, from your argument about a majority of Americans supporting reduced immigration,
I thought that you
a majority of Americans also support same-sex marriage.
The majority of U.S. states held referenda on that exact subject, and it passed. So, like, what world are you in?
A majority of the American people, go look at polling, a majority of the American people, and by the way, the Supreme Court of the United States, right, he's going to uphold the laws.
But at the moment when it was, look, I'm not arguing against gay marriage, just to be totally clear. I'm just saying to be out or beyond, as you put it, the ideological fringe, you have to have a view that is held by a tiny minority, and you have not named one.
He believes...
So this is a slur against him.
Wait a second. He believes that the Confederate flag, as he said a couple of years ago, represents a great achievement of the United States.
Okay, well, I don't even know what that means, but that's the basis upon which you're saying he's, quote, beyond the ideological.
I think that's beyond the ideological
You're carrying water for the Democratic Party, and you're smearing this guy without engaging his ideas.
I wrote about this before this even became an issue.
Well, they were going
carrying water, talking points. I mean, that's
These
ridiculous.
are pure talking points because you don't back it up. I would go write a column where you say, he says this is the policy that he proposes, and here's why it's wrong. And instead it's, he's endorsed by Stormfront.
He said the KKK was okay until he found out that they smoked pot.
You know, I can't.
He actually said that.
Really think,
he acknowledged that in a hearing, in a congressional hearing.
That Jeff Sessions is pro-KKK. Is that what you're saying?
No, what I'm saying
is... then what are you saying?
What I'm saying is he said that he thought they were okay.
So what he said was, I told a joke about marijuana that was a bad joke. He never said I'm for the KKK. And,
well, I mean, if that's your standard.
That's his standard. I'm asking you a really simple question. Do you think he's for the KKK or not?
I don't know.
Well, you don't know.
I don't know.
Then why are you suggesting he is?
All I said is what he said.
Look, I'm just saying, look,
I'm using
engage the guy
I'm using his
on
words.
the facts. Jonathan Allen, thanks for joining us.